wanted to chat with you guys about some questions that have been coming up a lot, not just from one-on-one coaching clients, but through some DMs on Instagram, things like that. And I think that a lot of these are pretty common questions for dancers and things that you might be experiencing or thinking if you have time off right now during holidays. So I figured we could address them all now. So some of the things I've been hearing and some of the things that I hear and have experienced are, I feel like during time off, I should be eating less and training more so I can go back thinner. Dancers tend to have it in their heads that, if I go back and my teacher notices that, like I said, I'm thinner, that I will get positive feedback, positive reinforcement. They will think that I have worked harder over break and all of that good stuff that we like to get. And I've totally been there. My first summer program away, I gained weight, and that was the first time I experienced negative body feedback. So then after that, every single summer intensive, one of my main goals, possibly even on top of or more importantly than improving technically, one of my goals was always to lose weight so I could come back thinner. And I think that this happens over holiday breaks as well. Anytime we're away from teachers, we'll say to ourselves, well, if I go back thinner, she'll be happier with me, or it will automatically appear as though I've improved. And we have all of those thoughts. So this goes on during holiday breaks as well. And this results in setting lots of deadlines around weight loss and numbers. By January 10th, I'm going to be at this number, or, by this date, I'll be at this number, or I'll look this way. And I think that it removes our focus from what we should really be putting the focus on, which is how can I support myself during this time and go back perhaps mentally stronger or mentally healthier or mentally and physically just feeling better overall. So let's try to remove the focus from a specific weight goal or a specific look or aesthetic and turn it to where can I put my focus technically and artistically so that I do in fact come back feeling and performing at a higher level. And for some of you, that's going to be tied into the next piece that I'll talk about, which is time off and relaxing and any guilt you're experiencing during that. So for some of you, depending on how hard you've been going over this time, taking time off and just relaxing might actually be the best thing for you to do during this break. Even if you're one of those people who has auditions, Zoom auditions, or in-person auditions coming up, yes, it might in fact be better for you to actually give yourself time off and relax instead of trying to push and push and push or try some new diet or something that you think might, again, make aesthetic differences that you are possibly working towards. So when you're in that mindset of, I think I just need to push harder during this break, or I think that I can't stop working for a second, I want you to ask yourself, what do you think is the worst that could happen if you did in fact take a break and actually allowed yourself to relax? Because in our minds, we usually go to the catastrophe, the worst case scenario. If I take time off right now, I'll never get a job. We say that to ourselves. If I take time off right now, I will not perform well at auditions and I will get cut, or again, I won't get a job, or I won't get a spot at a summer intensive. So you're going to those worst case scenarios. Once you've kind of identified them, and when I do this with clients and I say, well, what's the worst that could happen? And they go to these extremes, a lot of times, even just saying it out loud, they acknowledge, well, that's probably not going to happen from taking a few days off and relaxing and doing nothing. And so when you can separate the two things, then you can ask yourself, what are in fact the benefits of taking time off and relaxing? And I'll help with these, but I would encourage you to think of some on your own as well. Perhaps you'll go back feeling refreshed, or perhaps you'll go back feeling reinvigorated. Maybe it will allow your passion for dance to amplify, because you have given yourself time to disconnect and focus on other things, and maybe focus on family or friends, things that don't often get all the attention you would like to give them. So then when you do go back to dance, you're in a new headspace, a new mindset. You have been allowed to reconnect to your joy for dance because you've given yourself that time away. You will allow your body to recover, which for some of you, like I said, I have clients who are new to professional training programs. And so they've been going super hard since September or August even. And August, September, October, November, pushing, 6 days a week, sometimes more. And if they don't give themselves a break right now, burnout could be right around the corner. So you're going to allow your body and your mind to recover. And then when you do get back into the studio, you can feel refreshed again and recommitted and re-inspired, and you'll really find the joy again. Taking some time off can also help you reconnect to your hunger cues. For dancers and super active people in general, sometimes that activity level actually, causes you to miss the hunger cues, or you'll go through the day and say, well, I don't know, I've been super active, and then when I stop dancing, I don't feel super hungry, so it sort of dampens things. Or sometimes you have to keep dancing through hunger, and so then your connection of mind and body get a little bit off. When you fully relax, you can really say to yourself, oh, it's noon. This might be when I usually eat lunch. Am I in fact hungry right now, or am I just thinking I should eat lunch because it's lunchtime? And you'll allow yourself to really say, okay, do I feel hungry? And then you also won't have a class that you're going to try to rush into right after lunch. So perhaps you'll then say midway through the meal, give yourself a break and say, okay, how am I feeling? So again, it's the time piece and giving yourself time to sit and digest and enjoy meals that can really help you to reconnect to your hunger cues. And then time off can also allow you to connect with nature and more social forms of movement. So whether that's getting outside and going for a walk with your family. And I've told my dancers in the group program recently, I said, it doesn't matter if it's cold where you are. Put on all the things, the hat and the coat and the scarf and all of that, and get outside, because it still is super beneficial to get outside and breathe some fresh air within what's safe, obviously. But walking with your family, doing things, again, that are movement but social, that's a way to not feel like I'm just being totally lazy laying around the whole time, although I don't think that's necessarily always bad either. But when you do something, you go for a walk, maybe you do some gentle stretching or yoga, things that feel good, maybe things you don't normally feel like you have time for, that's going to allow you to go back feeling, again, physically reinvigorated, and like your body can now start pushing again towards the auditions or whatever you might have coming up next. So those are my 2 things that I wanted to touch on as far as time off. If you're just joining into the live video now, you can go back and watch the recording later on. I spoke about, feelings that dancers sometimes have around eating less and training more over breaks so that you can go back thinner. And then I just spoke about guilt over time off and relaxing. And then I had some questions that I wanted to get to. So one dancer asked thoughts on a 10-day no sugar added diet for the purpose of resetting after the holidays. And hey, I get it. This is on my mind too. Full disclosure, I just ate a couple of sugar cookies before I got in this live with you guys. And I'm like, oh gosh, I feel like I've been eating sugar cookies every day for the last 10 days. And so I too have asked myself, okay, where am I feeling like I should make some shifts perhaps with sugar? Because it does feel like it's been too much for me, and not the amount of sugar that makes me feel my best. And so I think that it's super common for these things to cross your mind right now after the holidays. I've been eating too much sugar. What should I do about it? Which is why all the diet plan promotion and things like that happens in January, or is so popular in January, or does so well in January, is because people are like, I have to do something to reset or detox or, lose weight or just, stop eating sugar, kind of a thing. I think that before you say to yourself, I need to cut out sugar altogether, ask yourself, where was I with sugar before the holidays? Because, if you're someone who did have a little bit of sugar every day and you feel like you're just going perhaps excessively and having too much sugar every day, going back to where you were pre-holiday would probably be a great step that would just make you feel better. And I think that a different approach works for everyone. For some of us, going straight back to that pre-holiday sugar intake is going to be easy, and that's going to be the way to go, and just go for it. And, it will recalibrate easily. And it's obviously is helpful when you're going to do that you don't have, all the sugar cookies left in the house. Personally, I'm a big advocate for giving away or throwing out food that is making you feel uncomfortable or crazy or out of control. it's a step. I don't think that everyone needs to do it, but I think depending on where you are, that might be something to consider. And we have to work on our mindset around being wasteful with food, because if it's nutritionally poor, are we really wasting it to get rid of it in that way? That's my question to you. So I want you to think about, like I said, where you were with sugar pre-holiday and what it would take to get back there and how easy that would be for you to do. I think that for a lot of people, not just dancers, to say I'm going to cut out sugar completely is an extreme that will often lead to then, binging later on. Or say you cut out sugar completely and you're successful for 2 months or into the next holiday season, and then it's the holidays and you're like, okay, now this is my time to eat sugar, and you go absolutely crazy with it and go way overboard. So I feel like a more balanced approach is to say, where was I with sugar before the holidays? What will it take for me to get back there? How can I make small, easily sustainable adjustments to achieve that end? And when you're doing these things, and this person actually has worked with me before, so she said something very great that I was like, oh wow, she's thinking about things I have said to her. Her purpose was to get to a place where she's feeling better physically and is not eating tons of sugar. So she says, is it ill-advised to do this sort of 10-day sugar, no added sugar diet, even with a healthy purpose? And so, I will go back to what I was just saying. 10 days to say I'm going to do no sugar for 10 days can in fact feel extreme. And if it's not something you're planning to keep going long term, which I wouldn't suggest, you're not going to go your whole life without having sugar, obviously, I would say, again, what is the step from where I am that is less sugar that makes me feel good? I think that motivation with these things is everything. And I think that if your motivation is, well, sugar doesn't make me feel good, or this amount of sugar doesn't make me feel good, again, how can I take a step back so that I'm at a place with it that does not feel out of control and does not feel like I'm going overboard? But ask yourself, how does sugar make you feel? I like sugar. Admittedly, I'm certainly a sweets person, but I enjoy a small amount, and when I eat more than that, I often will get a headache, or or even a stomach ache. I do feel physical effects. So that's always for me the question: how is this amount of sugar making me feel? And usually it's like, it's too much. I'm going to take a step back to where I was before. And then ask yourself, how does less sugar make you feel? So when you are in fact at a place with sugar where you don't feel like you're going overboard, how does that feel? I feel like I have more even energy and there are no spikes and drops. So, and again, when I surround that sugar consumption with balanced consumption of protein and carbs and fat, healthy carbs and fat, again, I'm supporting myself and not just going to the extremes with it again. So yes, I would say my bottom line, that was a lot of talk. For my bottom line, for a 10-day no sugar added diet, probably not the best response. What's the more gradual adjustment you can make to getting back to how much sugar you were consuming pre-holiday, where it's not feeling like too much, but it's the amount that works for you or the amount that you feel good consuming? And then the last question was advice for eating intuitively when tired. And this person said, fatigue tends to trick my natural hunger cues. So I'm going to speak to the big picture here, which is that in your body, right, your hormones are big factors in how you're consuming food, how your body is responding to food, and the relationship to food. So it's not that your body is being tricked or that your natural hunger cues are being tricked by being tired. It's that your hormones are reacting to the fatigue. And two big ones at play here are going to be ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is closely related to hunger, and leptin is tied to feeling full. When you're not sleeping enough, this triggers increased levels of ghrelin and decreased levels of leptin, which leads to increased hunger and appetite. So it's not really a trick. It's that your body is tired, and so your hormones are out of whack, and it's leading to this ghrelin and leptin discalibration. They're not where they ideally would be. So my tip is going to be to eat to get back to a place where you feel like you can eat intuitively and have clearer and easier to follow hunger and fullness cues is to prioritize sleep. It's one of the first things I tend to work on with dancers. If their sleep is not in a good place, we'll talk about why it's not in a good place, why they're not going to bed at, a consistent and reasonable hour, sleeping until a consistent and reasonable hour. The routines around those things are a big part of what I do with dancers in Elite Best Body Coaching. And it's interesting because we don't often see the connection, but this is a clear one and this dancer has clearly identified that, things feel not quite balanced and I feel like I'm being tricked, right? By my hunger cues are being tricked by this fatigue, but in fact it's the hormonal response. So that's why it's so important to get these are all lifestyle factors. This was an article I wrote for Point, which is like, why are our lifestyle factors, or how are our lifestyle factors so connected to body goals and healthy balance with food and things like that. And this is a key example of that. When you're tired, your hormones are out of whack. When you're not sleeping enough, your hormones are out of whack, and therefore, yes, you will have a really tough time trying to connect to any true hunger and fullness cues. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you ever have a question or something you'd like me to address in the Whole Dancer Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, I tend to promote all the content on those 3 channels. I would be happy to respond. You can always DM me on Instagram at The Whole Dancer or send me an email, jess@thewholedancer.com. Have happy, restful holidays. If you're struggling with food or body right now, again, reach out, maybe apply for Elite Best Body Coaching. I do have a few spots left to start in early 2021. And I'll be kicking off the Dancer's Best Body Course and Group Coaching Program in January as well, which I'm thrilled about. Get on the wait list for the next round of that program. But either way, happy holidays, and I'll be in touch with you guys all soon.